Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Talk with Jesse and Sherrard. We are so excited to have our very own Mrs. Louisiana, Courtney Vicari, with us. I was about to say in the studio. We're not in a studio, clearly. My background kind of looks like one. On our Zoom link with us today, Courtney has already been sipping the tea and spilling the tea. And we mean that
Yes,
literally because we were having our tea, and hers even has wonderful motivational messages on it.
I know, and it's cheap, so everybody can get
So
it.
just wellness all around. I'm so happy to have you on, Courtney. Courtney and I
Thank you.
have been in contact for months now. Courtney is our reigning Mrs. Louisiana USA, and she has a platform of mental health awareness and advocacy. On top of that, she is an educator and she is a proud military spouse with a wonderful military family history as well. Courtney reached out to so many amazing mental health agencies in Louisiana so that, I mean, she advocates and spreads awareness for us and just for mental health in general. And she's just really cool. And I'm so glad to have you on. And I cannot thank you enough for being with us.
I am excited. I am so excited. And yes, you're right. Finally, we have been talking and collaborating for months just to kind of get this whole mental health awareness kicked off because we all know it is a stigma. Our goal here is to end the stigma here and everywhere else and be such an advocate and a supporter of that because we all know it is something that everybody deals with. It doesn't matter if you don't think that you have it. It is some form, some cause, some root of it. So yeah, that's me. I'm just me trying to do a thing.
Just you as, again, our queen, our Mrs. Louisiana. And I am wondering if you would maybe just for our listeners first off, because I had actually not heard of the Mrs. Louisiana pageant until we connected. Would you be able to tell us a little about the Mrs. USA pageant and what your experience was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never done pageants before. Um,
Really?
and not that I was never not into them. I was just more I grew up doing sports and things like that. But I wanted to do something for myself. I wanted to do something for me. I have an identical twin sister. Um, so sharing was like always like I'm a professional sharer. Even when we got married, like I'm still a twin, but I still wanted to do something for myself. My husband's military, former Baton Rouge DA investigator, and soldier. And then, we have two daughters and they're teenagers. But I was always like, okay, I need to take time for myself because I'm a firm believer, like whether it's 10 minutes or 20 minutes, even if it's in the bathtub, whatever. That's how I can like wash away my day. But I wanted to do something for me. So I said, okay, well, let me see what I can do. And so I, researched it. I applied, went through the whole interview, judging the whole 9 yards. Didn't say anything to anybody, not even my husband. He had no idea. So I went for my final round and I was like, oh my God, like now it's like really serious. Like my anxiety's like through the roof. I'm trying not to act like, okay, what am I hiding? So I got a call on Friday. Yeah, this was a Friday. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to make our determinations after going through the whole series and things and all of that. I mean, this is a whole debacle. Um, I said, well, I'm not going to be able to sleep over the weekend. That Friday, that evening, they got back with me with a contract and they said, hey, we would love for you to, represent Louisiana, blase, blase, blase. Well, would you accept the offer? And I was like, absolutely. So now I had to come clean about it. So I was like, Michael, like, we need to have a discussion. Like, he's like, oh my God, Courtney, what did you do? And he's probably thinking the worst at this point. And so I told him, and naturally he was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then it was such an honor because it kicked off so quick and so fast. And I already kind of knew exactly what it is that I was advocating for because it's something that I've kind of advocated for my whole life because military is all that I know. I don't know anything outside of that. Whether it's like you don't know the military life, just like I don't really know the whole civilian life. Because I grew up in it. My dad was a retired colonel. He served as Secretary of Veterans Affairs for 23 years between here, Arizona, and the National VA in Washington. So that was all that I knew. And my mom, she's German. So it's like, I was born and bred this. So it worked out. And then I became a mom. And I have to say that um, my daughters kind of inspired me to do that a little bit, to kind of push for this, because being a teacher, I was a teacher for 14 years, and then now I came to the military side, where I work for the Department of the Military for Louisiana, the Youth Challenge Program. Now I'm working with high risk youth who come through all types of environments, you name it, drug addiction, mental illness, you name it, I deal with it. Um, and that was where my heart was. I felt at peace. I felt at home. I knew it was almost like a calling for me. Um, but I honestly, I think it was my daughters. My daughters are at that age, they're teenagers. And even with them going to school, I see it all the time, like drama here, drama that, and social media this, social media that. And can you believe, like, there's that stigma, like that and it causes so much pressure on them. So just being a root and an advocate, trying to navigate that, I think that's why I am here as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah.
that's really deep, and then it's kind of cool that you know that you have that military background, and like you said, like we don't know, I know my dad was in the military, but by the time I was born, he was out, so I don't know
Yeah.
that lifestyle, but that's really cool that you do that, and I also know that like you've partnered with and promoted so many wonderful mental health agencies and advocates. Could you tell us how you decided on your platform of mental health awareness?
Yeah. So veterans was just always something, was, I mean, I hold that in my heart. I mean, it's literally in my blood. Um, but being a wife of a military, a soldier, I've had to deal with deployments, and it's hard when you have kids, because his first deployment, we weren't married, we didn't have kids. This deployment, we were married and we had children, but they were old enough to understand what was going on. And you think that they don't know what's going on, but children pay attention to everything, whether
Right.
they're 7 or whether they're 16, 17, or 18. They're constantly watching. Um, and I didn't realize the effect of a deployment on them, because they had to pay the price as well. They didn't have a dad at home. He was gone for a year doing COVID missions in Baghdad. So I was playing mom and dad. And I don't know how I did it. And I think that my body kind of went into survival mode, like, you have no choice. So it's either you survive or you don't. And so when they would, have breakdowns or something would trigger, my youngest daughter, I know it was a certain song that would come on. And I'll never forget, like in the car, we'd just be driving to like one of their sporting events, and I'd look up in the mirror and I'd be like, oh my God. And she'd be in the back seat and she'd have tears. I'm like, what's wrong? And I miss dad, and at that time she was young. She's my youngest one. So it was certain little things that triggered that. And as much as I prepared them, you guys, they never truly were prepared, because I bought books. I bought all of it. And I remember the night that he left, and I still have it. I'll always have it. And in fact, I had started like a book club with like other wives and families that had children that were going through deployments. And so when I was finished with the books, I would pass them down to them so that they would be able to share those with their kids. And then it just kind of became an ongoing thing. But I'll never forget, one of those days, the night before he was leaving, I couldn't even get to the book. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be good, whatever. But then that was a point to where it was like, okay, it is okay to not be okay,
Right.
and a lot of people have a hard time with that, because they let pride come in, or they're embarrassed, or they're ashamed, regardless of the situation. But it doesn't matter. We all come from a different story. We all come from a certain background. So that saying, it literally is okay to not be okay, it is okay. um the suicide rate in the military was something that really affected me, um because, and I'm sure even on the regular side of life, everybody deals with it in some sort of way, and I did. And that was hard, because my brother was deployed in Kandahar at the time, came home, lost a best friend to suicide. My husband had a good friend, was on a deployment, came and stayed at our house, And that was the last time that I ever saw him. His wife called me, suicide. And that hits home. That's like a gut punch. And then, in today's day and age with our kids and things like that, we really have to be an advocate for it because it is very serious. It's not something that you can just go around saying, oh, I feel like, this, and this. No, it is very serious. You wouldn't bring it up. What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. And you've really like so eloquently summed up of what Jesse and I probably have spent like 5 different podcast episodes talking about. But that modeling and providing that for your own kids and just into the community of that mental health doesn't mean that you're happy all the time. That mental wellness
No,
means that you're letting yourself to not be okay and doing what you can to try and keep your brain and your body healthy while you're processing whatever it is that you're
absolutely.
going through.
Because the organizations that I have partnered with, and I've partnered with so many, and one of the organization was actually you guys. You were one of my first organizations to partner with. And it kind of just fell into my lap. And maybe it was meant to be. Who knows? And that has gone really well because those were resources that I had on me immediately, that I could pass along. And I still pass along those, where before I didn't have so much access to it. So the benefit of, you guys and V-Link and everybody, like, that's immediate access. And this is something that everybody should know about and have access to. Because in the beginning, I didn't know. I was like clueless. I'm like, oh my gosh, how long has this program been around? Like, this is great. Like, this is an incredible thing, and especially with our teenagers and stuff too. Um, and a lot of people don't understand, mental illness doesn't mean that you're crazy or you have a problem or
Right.
anything like that. Mental illness can be something as simple as anxiety. And what I
Right.
do with anxiety, I'm different. I have no shame in my game as far as admitting that I do suffer from that. Um, you know, how do I cope? Well, exercise, but I also can identify those triggers. Was it easy to identify those triggers? No, it never is. But the more it happens, the more I experience things, I'm able to recognize what set it off. And those are things that we really have to educate those around us on. How can we cope? Coping mechanisms. What can we do? Um, there's a great organization I'm the spokeswoman of. It's called the Louisiana Crisis Intervention Teams out in Jefferson Parish. Great friend of mine. He's the president. His name is James Guidry. And what we do is we want to promote law enforcement agencies to be able to get people to, instead of admitting them or incarcerating them or, sending them back to jail or, PCPing them, because we can hold them up to 15 days. And that's beds that we have to occupy in the hospitals and emergency rooms. What can we do to get agencies trained and be able to talk them down, maybe put them in rehab facilities that would get them the help that they need?
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, a lot of the people, that need help, when they're going like in jail, like I don't feel like that's somewhere where someone who's suffering for like bipolar and, depression, and that's not a place for them. They need a rehab or, some type of program that works for them. And I think that's the biggest thing around the world, even like America, like their number one thing sometimes is just to throw them back in jail. And it's like, okay, the moment you let them out, it's going to stay the same. There's no change.
Exactly.
They're going to be
Yeah,
back within a month or so. The pattern's the
100%.
same.
Yeah, and you're
Uh,
100% right. It becomes a cycle,
right. And
and
I think that's important. We need more programs to help them to, so that we can break the cycle. So we're not, you know, overcrowding the jails with people who really need deeper, help versus, somebody who just stole something and they're fine. They just stole something or,
yeah, exactly. Give them the resources to say, hey, what can we do to help you? And, a lot of my time every day, and they call it Miss V's therapy, and we have it on Fridays in my classroom. But, I deal with primarily females. I kind of correspond, well, I do correspond with male cadets, but primarily I've always taught the female cadets, because it doesn't matter, male, female, we all have issues, we all have problems. Um, you know, I don't care what you are, where you come from. There's it doesn't matter. You could be the richest of the rich, or you could be the poorest of the poor. It doesn't matter, because we all struggle with something. And, the trust, they have to be able to trust you, and you have to be able to establish that, because it doesn't matter if you've got a team of people trying to help you, or help them, but all it takes is one person to be able to make a difference. And
Right.
I think that if I am able to continue to do that, then I'm going to be feeling my life's purpose. Did I wake up and say, hey, this is where I want to be? No, I think I just kind of fell into it. Like I said, I believe that everything happens for a reason, and this is probably why I'm not gonna question it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I can't save them all. I did struggle with that, because my job as their instructor is the second chance at giving them everything that they need when they leave the program in 22 weeks with me, to academically have their high school diploma, to have the life coping mechanisms, to go back out into society and learn how to live a functional life. And a lot of times they don't always do that. They kind of fall back into that, pattern that they came to before. And it's so sad and it's heartbreaking. And they come to you and they're like, Miss V, I can't go back to where I came from. And unfortunately, our environment does play a lot, and how our behavior is. But I struggled with that, because I create this bond, they create this bond with me. And like I said, I can't save them all. I've had cadets go on to do great things, join the military, become officers, and that's rewarding.
Right.
Um, so that's a little bit about what I do and where I come from, and what I believe on in mental health. It doesn't define you as a person. It's what can we do to help, and it's an all around country thing. Everybody struggles with it from some sort. And a lot of people don't realize, and I tell my kids, even my students too, my own children, if you were to stand up and stick your arms out and kind of see what's in your bubble, in your circle, that's the only thing that you can control. You can't control anything else, because the moment that you do, that's when we're going to start having problems. And you can't worry about what people think about you. And I don't care what people think about me. Like I said, I'll be shopping at the Dollar General. It doesn't make a difference to me,
Dollar General
because
has great stuff.
they have wonderful stuff. But that is the problem with society today, is that they have placed a label to try to keep up with the Joneses. And so that's what causes a lot of pressure amongst our teenagers. You've got to have this, you've got to have that. I don't have this. Who cares? Does it have to be name brand? No. If you like it, you like it.
Right.
So
Yeah. I get way too much of all of my Christmas decorations are either from the Dollar Tree or they're antiques. There's no in between. So
yeah, and you know what? And if you like it, then that's all that matters. And if it makes you happy, then that's all that matters. Because I'm going to tell everybody, and I tell everybody this, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm not out to impress anybody. I'm just being me. And don't ask me something and you don't expect me to just be honest and truthful, because I'm going to just say it how it is, because I would expect that in return. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, why lie?
right. And
Right.
I love that message of like, really, like, I see you. I'm going to see you for who you are.
Yeah.
And all of that is wonderful. And just like everybody's brains are wonderful the way that they are. It's all about how do you learn your brain so that you can thrive. And I love keeping up with you on social media because it is just, you have such a fun page because you're always just doing you. And I love seeing you're in your like ball gowns, but you're also handing out like our suicide awareness wristbands. So it's just this wonderful combination. So
Yeah, and
as
if you see me right now, look,
yes.
this is how real I am. I got a nice top on, my earrings, but I got Valentine's pajama pants on right now. And some like orange like Under Armour socks. I don't care, because I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm here to be real, spread the word, because you know what? In 20 years, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, none of that stuff even mattered. Like, because it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. Like, it really just doesn't. And a lot of people don't realize too, PTSD isn't just a physical trauma, it is also emotional. Mental health is emotional. And I will tell you, and I'm sure that you guys know this as well. To me, emotional pain is so much worse than physical pain. I
Yeah.
would rather have the crap beat out of me than have to go through emotional pain, because that hurts and that cuts deep. And you don't want to wake up or wonder all day, every day, am I okay? Am I okay? Is everything going to be okay? Is everything that, you know what I mean? Because at that moment, if I have control emotionally and mentally, then physically I'm going to be okay and I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
And in spreading so much of this message and awareness as Mrs. Louisiana, what in your reign thus far has been your favorite moment, and what do you think you spend the most of your time with?
Honestly, everything has been different. I can't say that I've had like one favorite moment, because every time and everything is different.
Mhm.
And that is one of the things about me. I don't like complacency. So I'm always searching for like the next best thing. Like I'm always searching, like I can never just be still. I don't know if that's just like me, my like ADD or whatever. And I'll tell people that too. I'll tell like my own students, they'll like tell me, oh, I can't focus. Well, you have to discipline your mind, because guess what? I'm that too. And I have to be medicated. So guess what? If I can do it, you can do it. But I don't like complacency. I like to be figuring out what I can do. I'm just kind of go with the flow. I don't have a favorite. Um,
Yeah.
I do it all. Everything is different. Everything. It can be difficult. It is difficult to kind of be able to balance, you know, everything at once. But I've kind of got accustomed to it. If I can stay organized, if I can stay on top of my priorities, because time management and priority management is something that is very important, because if I don't feel like I have control over that, then that's when I have my anxiety flare up, and then I just get flustered and it just becomes a total mess. So to me, and I think that's just part of who I am, is just making sure that I stay on task.
Yeah, and I know like from your Instagram page and your Facebook, like I know you're really, really busy. And as Miss Louisiana, an educator, a wife, a mother, how do you find balance in taking care of yourself and your own mental health?
Okay, that's a great question. And I'm glad that you asked that, because a lot of people are a little shy to ask me that. And I tell them you don't need to be shy, because I'm human too. I'm
Mhm.
tired. Just like everybody else is tired. So that is a great question, Jesse. So what I do is I like to exercise. Do I love it? No, I don't. You will not find me in the gym consistently as I should. But I know that if it's a walk or if it's a little jog or something like that, that kind of gets these endorphins going, and it kind of, throws that dopamine out, and it kind of just resets me a little bit. Um, Honestly, my baths. I love my baths. And the kids know, Mike knows, like, don't bother me when I'm taking my baths, because that's when, even if it's like 10 minutes, like when I get in my bath, I can feel everything just kind of wear off, whether it's me checking my emails or responding to text or anything like that. But it's just that few minutes to just mentally unwind. I don't know if it's like the hot water or something, but I can literally just decompress. Um, and they respect that. I mean,
Right.
look, all I ask is just for a few minutes, even if it's on the way home in the car, with no music on or anything like that. Just some, I do make sure that I have at least a few minutes a day to just myself, where I can decompress, because I mean, just like you guys, I'm sure y'all are stressed out from time to time. I mean, I do blow up, I do get mad. And that's not fun for them, but I don't want to be like that. So if I can control it, the teas, I love teas. Um, just normal, you know, anything. Just keep my mind busy.
Yeah. And you're a much more benevolent wife than me, because I keep my husband locked out of the bathroom for like an hour when I'm having my bath time.
I do that too. I had to start doing that. And the reason I had to start doing that is because the dog would come in, they would forget to shut the door, or they'd be knocking at the door, mom, mom. And I'm like, can I just get a few minutes? Like, what the heck? Like, so, yeah, I just make sure that I have a few minutes of me time. because
Yeah,
that's important. It doesn't matter if you're married, if you're not married or whatever. I think everybody deserves their personal time.
for sure. And I mean, thinking about, okay, I'm going to call myself out because in thinking about things that are like good for your brain and your body, and you're talking
Yeah.
about tea, which is so lovely, and I'm like chugging my energy drink. And if my mom
Yeah.
is watching, I know she's going to fuss at me for having energy drinks.
Mine
So
too.
I
Mine like,
know, mom,
oh, you need to stop the Red Bull. Stop the Red Bull.
but it makes me feel good. So,
Yeah.
we all have our vices. But
Yeah.
with talking about self-care and that mental wellness, if you do get to those places where it's not just kind of your maintenance, you've had the day where you've hit the boiling point, you're feeling stressed,
Yeah.
you're feeling even overwhelmed. What are kind of some of your go-to um, coping mechanisms for that?
So I've had to learn that, and I'm going to be honest with y'all, I am a talker. So if something aggravates me or I get pissed off, my mouth gets me in trouble. So I've had to learn that no response is a response to things. And as hard as that was, I've had to learn how to control that, because I mean, if I hold it all in, I mean, I've had it where I've thrown things or whatever, but honestly, at the end of the day, I don't want to create an environment with my family where they've got to be like, oh my God, mom's flipping out, mom's crazy, I'm scared or whatever. Like, because at that point they're like staying in their rooms, they're not coming out. And my children know that they can talk to me about anything.
Yeah.
I've always told them, my mom was really, really good about this too. I'm your mother first, and I'm your friend. But there was that boundary where you just didn't cross. But I always knew that it didn't matter what it was, whether it was the worst thing or whatever. My mom was going to be there to talk me through, and my dad too. Very, very great. They just never. I was very fortunate to never have an opportunity to do without. You know what I'm saying? I always had them. And it hurt, to be honest, or like if I did something, I'd have to look at him and be like, but you know what? Like I tell everybody else, the truth does set you free. And I don't want to carry the weight of any kind of burden on me. So, and I don't want to go to sleep at night knowing that I've got something on my conscience. So I would rather just deal with the repercussions of it all. Get help. There are resources, suicide prevention hotline. It is okay to call them. It is okay. That's why we're here. And I want people to understand that if we didn't care and there wasn't people around us that didn't care, then we wouldn't have these resources. These resources are for us as humans, as individuals, because one day there may not be that person there, and they need to know that there's other people there for them. And it's just very, very crucial. And that's why I said a lot of like GIs and like soldiers and students like that, don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed. Like, you just saw war. War is not normal for us to go through. It's going to change a person. Certain traumas, when it affects us or happens to us as a child, and later on we hit our 20s and something happens, and that's when you're like, oh crap, it stems from childhood. The problem is that if we don't seek to solve the problem and we just treat the symptom, when we come off that high or we come off that drunk or whatever, the problem is still going to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like a doctor. You go to the doctor because you're sick. He gives you medicine so that you can become healthy again. That's the same thing with mental illness. If you do not treat it, then it's going to always be there. And our bodies are not designed to harbor those feelings, because the more stress that you carry in your bodies or in your body, it will become problematic physically later on. So a lot of people just put it in that little box in the back of our head, and we just kind of compartmentalize it. That's okay for a little while, but guess what? Something's going to happen. Something's going to trigger it, and it's all going to come out. And that's why I said those resources have to readily be available, and they have to be readily accessible, and they have to know that it's okay to be able to seek help.
Absolutely. And we would just love to remind all of our listeners again that 988, that's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Via Link is a proud answerer of 988. And 988 is there for whatever you're going through. Of course, including those moments where you're overwhelmed, where you're at crisis,
Mhm.
where you're even thinking of attempting suicide or really struggling with your thoughts of suicide.
Yeah.
988 is also there for anything that you are going through. When you are feeling that stress, when you do not know who to talk to, 988 is available by dialing 988 or texting 988 everywhere in the US 24 hours a day. Do not
Mhm.
hesitate to call 988. Reach out. We want to hear from you.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I tell a lot of people it's suicide. It's not the it's not a problem solver, because ultimately, I've told people, when you're going through this, okay, it's a very touchy subject. Yes, you think that's an immediate release, but guess what? Now your family is the one that suffers with this. So it's an ongoing thing of something tragic, but it affects everybody around you, because it does. Maybe a parent lost, a child, or a child lost a parent, or vice versa. So it's everybody that suffers. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't see the red flags, or I didn't see this. And a lot of times you don't, because
Right.
people are good at like masking, you know, and it's like, I've had to learn. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't see that coming, or what can I do so that it won't happen again? So I always, just to kind of make sure that I'm like scanning the person, observing the person, and I'll pull them aside, hey, you good? Or hey, if you need me, I'm here, or whatever, because just something like that, it literally does go far. Oh yeah, I'm good, whatever. Check in.
Yeah. Knowing that someone sees you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I know like you've shared so much helpful information and so much value in this podcast that we really are very appreciative. I do have a question. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
If I could go back and tell myself one thing, what would it be? Mm, Jesse, I kind of struggle with, okay, everybody in my family was military. Um, Even my twin sister is still in the military. My three brothers, everybody, like everybody's in my family. I'm the only one that did not go military. But did my parents force me to do that? No, they were going to be proud of us no matter what, and they supported whatever we wanted. But because I had lived it, and I said, I'm not going to marry a soldier, just because I wanted something different for me. But it didn't work out that way. We met in college, and it is what it is. So the one thing that I probably wish that I could have changed, but I don't regret, because I'm happy where I'm at now. Like, don't get me wrong, but if I could change anything or say to myself, I think that I would have said, hey, don't be in such a rush. Like, take your time, because that's something that we don't get back.
Yeah.
Time, we don't get back. So
Right.
enjoy the moment, like embrace it for what it is. Don't be in such a rush. If I had thought a lot of things through growing up, especially in my college years, it probably would have saved me a lot of time and stress. And I mean, it was college, go out and have
Right.
fun, party.
As we're all cataloging all of the like things we achieved
Yeah, I
from
mean,
college.
yeah. So I wish I would have just said slow down, you know, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
Yeah.
like that.
That is some real advice from our real talk. And Courtney, we cannot thank you enough for being with us
Yeah.
today. Cannot thank you enough for all that you do, not even just as Mrs. Louisiana, but as a mom, as a wife, as an educator. I mean, you're bridging so many different communities together, and you have such an amazing, just real attitude about it. And it's just fantastic. And I adore you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you,
Yeah, thank you
guys.
so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, reach out. I'm here for y'all, See you guys soon.
Thank
See you
you. All right,
soon.
Jesse, you want to
All
try
right.
our sign off?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right,
Okay,
this has
cool.
been Real Talk. No
No
filters,
filters, no
no
flow,
fluff, just
just
real
real
talk.
talk.
Nailed
I
it.
love it.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.